Welcome to the 2021 New York City Candidates Forum, brought to you as a public service by the Henry George School of Social Science. The shortage of housing and high rental costs are issues that many New Yorkers, especially millennials, are struggling with. How do you plan to address this problem?
I started my young adulthood off homeless. Uh, Actually, it's a statistic that like a lot of folks aren't familiar with, but actually a majority of Black kids that have gone through either the foster system or are adopted actually like end up homeless in their early adult years. For me, this was like right during the Great Recession. And so it actually like locked me out of housing for a while. Um, and I can't imagine being a young adult in New York City, like at the time of like a lot of economic turmoil. For me, like there's a lot of challenges that like we have to tackle. But specifically, I like things that tackle the conflict that exists between renters, owner occupants, those in public housing, in relationship to the real estate industry. And so for me, one of the first things I think that we have to do is implement an anti-warehousing tax. Because an anti-warehousing tax, like it for our district, which in our district, 60% of new building is just sitting empty, unrented, unsold. And if we think about like the amount that is just sitting empty, purchased but still sitting empty, it could be as high as 90%. We're not really sure. One of the ways that we can ensure that we're getting folks off the street and a roof over their head is by taxing buildings that are just sitting there empty. If we incentivize renting at a price that folks can afford, we can get more folks off the street. We can make sure that the public money that we put towards vouchers, it goes further. So we get more for the city's money. And then we also are addressing the issue in such a way that it affects everybody's rent costs. So it actually ends up helping renters, the 76% of our district that are renters. It helps everyone. So for me, I'm passionate about solutions that really kind of attack the root issue and the conflict that exists between those of us who are renters, owner occupants, and public housing residents, and those who own all of the housing in our city.
Blighted and vacant parcels dot New York City, especially in the outer boroughs. What strategies do you support to put them back into productive use for both families and commerce?
There's been a lot of conversation around the tax lien sale. And there's a lot of strategies that we can be using to ensure that when people are unable to pay mortgage, if it's unaffordable, I think that we should be using public funds to expand our public housing stock. It's a way in which we can ensure that our homeless population isn't being expanded, and actually ensures that in the future we're moving towards a world in which housing exists as a human right. So putting public funds to use for ensuring that housing is preserved for folks is a major priority for me.
New York has had recent experiences with upzoning, Flushing and Murray Hill, for example. Evidence indicates upzoning capitalizes onto increased land values. What is your view on upzoning?
So Upzoning is usually a manifestation of the campaign donations that real estate developers have made. Um, uh, One thing that often happens, of course, is that real estate developers make donations to politicians who then, oftentimes end up upzoning property that is held by those real estate developers and large landowners. This essentially is printing money for real estate developers, turning their property into land that is worth far more. Our housing policy shouldn't revolve around the profits of real estate developers. And so whenever we're talking about upzonings or rezonings, we got to be like first thinking, does this upzoning, does this rezoning, does it affect, does it actually put more value into the hands of working people, or does it exist as a way of printing money for for the multimillionaires and billionaires that own New York City? I think that I think that we should be moving away from upzonings for the sake of profit, and focusing on land policy that benefits working people.
With large development and infrastructure projects such as Hudson Yards and the Second Avenue subway extension, would you consider supporting land value capture strategies to return that land value uplift to its creators, the taxpayers?
Value capture strategies are generally exist, especially in this district, exist as a way of extracting money out of the hands of working people and towards funding projects for real estate developers. So there's a task force for the BQX, one of two task forces in City Hall is dedicated to this private light rail line that will go along the water. And with all of the development that is targeted for there, really what the goal is to get the people to pay for this amenity that increases the value of the property held by these real estate developers. It's a way of getting all of us as working class people to boost the profits of these wealthy landholders. To me, I'm generally just against value capture strategies, because I just don't think that renters and owner occupants don't have the same financial interests. And so extracting money out of us in order to create amenities for real estate developers is something I'm generally against.